Is Bayonetta 3, Bayonetta 1, or Bayonetta 2? You know what? This joke doesn't really work like the Modern Warfare joke did. Hello, fellow gamists, and welcome to Bayonetta 3's review discussion. Ramblin Italian thing that I'm trying to do. I'm changing up the format for Ramblin Italian. This is it. Bayonetta 3 is a very good action game. I want to get that said right away. A very good character action game, no less. Is it a great Bayonetta game? That's very debatable. Bayonetta 3, on its own, divorced of all the other games, is a must-play, but when you compare it to its previous games, it falls short in a lot of areas. Let's try to get the good out of the way first and start with combat. Combat is very good. The combat in this game is just as good as any of the others, maybe even better in some spots. The big new addition for this game is adding pretty much kaijus to fight alongside you during battles. So you'll be starting up your combos with tons of weapons. You have a huge variety of weapons to choose from and switch between on the fly mid-combat, mid-combo even. And as you're doing these combos, you will build up a meter that you can use to summon giant kaiju monsters. And there are just as much variety in the monsters you can pick as there are the weapons. When it comes to killing demons, or I don't really know what you would necessarily call these enemies. The last two games were mostly angels and demons, and this one is like multi-dimensional beings, I guess. Anyway, during combat, you can summon a demon at will anytime to help you out. And when you summon them, this demon is fully controllable with their own set of combos and moves to pull off, which adds a whole nother layer to the combat design. Basically, you could be starting a combo as Bayonetta herself and then finish strongly with a monster summon. The way you fight around these monsters during combat, it must be what Scalebound was supposed to be. Get ready for a history lesson right now, because Platinum Games was making a game called Scalebound for Xbox, which was supposed to be a character action game that they're known so well, combined with kaiju monsters. I don't think it's a coincidence that Bayonetta 3 is a character action game that has you fight alongside kaiju monsters. And the way it's implemented is very well done and seamless, transitioning between summoning the monster, playing as them, hitting their combos, and then jumping back as Bayonetta, finishing hers. The combat, again, is the star of the show. It is why you come to play this game. The story, on the other hand, is absolute dog shit. The story is terrible. And the thing is that every Bayonetta game has terrible stories, so this one doesn't knock any extra points for having a bad story, really. But it's especially bad, even for a Bayonetta game. And most of that is due to the ending that just completely takes a massive dump on this. The one good thing about the writing in this game, and that is the Bayonetta character herself, just completely dumps on her. It is wild. I haven't seen character assassination in a game like this since ever. It reminds me of Game of Thrones' level of swerving character motivations at the last second in season 8. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So much so that I've never been less excited for a sequel to a franchise I love in my life. And I would still play Fallout 5. But Bayonetta 4, I don't know. Where the story ends and what the direction they want to take with it, I'm not a big fan of. Now, everything I talked about with the combat still stands, regardless of the story. Again, you don't come to a Bayonetta game for its story. But that's also me talking about playing as Bayonetta. There are two other characters you play as. I would say about 70% of this game you probably play as Bayonetta, with like 20% the new character. I think it's Viola. Oh boy, that tells you how exciting of a character she is. You play about 20% of the game as Viola, and then a 10% as Jean. Jean is a returning character from the other games. Viola is brand new, and she has her own combat style that is very focused on parrying. for Jean in this one, she is delegated to a whole new side-scrolling type of mission that's very bare bones and focused on stealth, and it kind of sucks. I think they wanted to try to add gameplay variety the same way that they've been adding combat variety with the kaijus and the weapons, but it does not hit. I mean, these stealth sections are fine. They're very simple and uninspired. Bayonetta's name's on the box. I don't want to play as Jean. Well, I mean, the older games, Jean's cool. I would like to play as her, but not like this. Not in a side-scrolling stealth sequence that I just want to end the second it starts, but I have to play it. Viola is a similar situation. I don't necessarily like her combat. Her combat isn't bad. It's not anything like the Jean sections. It at least plays like a Bayonetta game. It's still character action focused. It's not stealth or anything. She wields a katana and has some very cool moves attached to her. It's more her parry system that bothers the hell out of me. The way her parry system works and the way it's tied to witch time, like Bayonetta's dodges, it doesn't mesh well, and these parries just don't feel right because the game is paced out in such a way that you end up playing about, let's say, 3-4 Bayonetta missions and then jump into a Viola mission, then play about 3 or 4 more Bayonetta, jump back into Viola. I never feel like I can get a proper sense of how she fights, because just as I'm getting used to her, I go back to Bayonetta. And just as I'm having fun with Bayonetta and getting comfortable with her combat even further and all the new weapons she gets, they throw me back with Viola. I think she could work in her own game. Maybe. I think if I got more comfortable with that parrying system. Part of me makes maybe I'm just bad. Maybe I'm just bad at that parry and I just need to get better. And that's probably the case. This isn't Platinum's first foray into that kind of thing. One of my favorite Platinum games, probably my all-time favorite, is Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which is all about parrying and wielding a katana just like Viola. It works so well there, but it doesn't here. And maybe it's because it's the focus of Raiden in that game. But also they handle parrying a little differently in that game with different timings and different inputs that you do, which I think is way more beneficial than the way Viola's parry is handled. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that it's bad, and it's not my fault. It is Platinum's fault. They should have made Viola play a little bit better, or at least paced her levels out a little better. So with the Viola and Jean missions, it is their way of trying to pace out the game and give more variety to it that it doesn't really need. I came to Bayonetta 3 to play as Bayonetta. I came for that style of character action, and that style delivers. Everything else around it just is lesser than what's come before. The mission design is pretty bland, and the Switch is showing its age. There are some hype moments in this game, some truly jaw-dropping spectacle moments, just pure anime action fun, and adding kaijus. It never hurts to add kaijus in anything, really. But there are some truly hype moments that the Switch can't keep up, and I wish it could, and I wish I could see. I either wish the Switch could keep up or that this game could come out on a PS5 and I could see what Platinum can do with that hardware. The same exact set pieces, but with that kind of hardware would be nuts. I mean, I'm playing God of War Ragnarok right now, and I know I just dated this video, and the set pieces in that game are wild, are absolutely crazy, and I actually think Bayonetta has better ones, but it doesn't look like God of War does. It doesn't have that polish or that 60 FPS 4K visual fidelity. Bayonetta 3 needed a new Switch. It would have helped. I mean, it wouldn't help a whole lot, but it would have helped enough. Because they're trying to do more open levels. Bayonetta 2 started doing that. This one expands upon it even more of the way you explore these levels in a more open way of finding side missions and doing little platforming objectives. It comes back to the same feeling I have with the Jean levels or Viola. It's like, that's not really what I come here for. I get you want to break up the action and pace it out a bit, but I come here for the Bayonetta action, and I just want more and more and more of that. So don't distract me. Don't give me other things that I don't want to be doing right now. It's not just the level design too, but the levels themselves. Just aren't that exciting. They're pretty much just flat open areas with Switch quality graphics. But with the multi-dimensional storyline, they're doing their best to put some visual flair as much as they can in there. They're just not the most fun to be in, not the most fun to fight in, especially with enemies that are not the most fun to fight. The enemies in Bayonetta 1 and 2 are much more interesting in the way they attack you, in their visual design, in almost every way, actually. These ones are fine. They're enemies. They serve their purpose as a foe for Bayonetta to do stylish combat at. That is them at their best. And at their worst, they have really annoying requirements to beat. And they throw maybe a little too much at them. And they don't have enough variety visually or fightistically. I don't know. What would you call that? I want to say stylistically in the way that they fight. So I'm going to say fightistically again. I just made that up. We're just using this word now. Fightistically. And now I don't remember why I said that. All that to say, no matter how many problems I had, how old the Switch is, how much I was anticipating Bayonetta 3 because this game took so damn long to make just for it to be lesser than the other two. I loved it. I still had a lot of fun. It's one of those things where it's like the worst Bayonetta game is still better than 90% of anything else you can play right now. Because for all its faults, they nailed it where it counts. It just takes a lot longer to get to the parts where it counts. And this is the first Bayonetta game where all the parts around it are so middling to straight up terrible that they actually can get in the way of the parts that are great. I hope Platinum can learn a lot from this. I love Platinum games, and I want to see them do amazing. But right now, with the way Bayonetta 3 ends, I'm good. Just let it be. The direction they want to take Bayonetta 4 does not excite me in the slightest. So just do something else. Maybe make Scalebound again. I don't know. Good luck with that, though.
You know, I rather enjoy teaching obedience.